in the title of the form of equation really tells us what the form tells us. Before, yesterday, we looked yesterday at something called the slope-intercept form. It told us the slope and the y-intercept. That's why we call it the slope-intercept form. This form we can use when we have a point and we know the slope. That's why we call it point-slope form. Any point, not y-intercept. See, the slope-intercept form is very much tied to the y-intercept and the slope. This form is tied to the point, just any point on the line and the slope. And so it's in alignment with our standard where we're going to use and graph functions. And we want to be able to graph them by hand, not only by hand, but also using technology, which is the graphing calculator or the graphing calculator simulator you find on your computer. And of course, our job here in the second standard that I've listed is to graph linear and quadratic functions. So we're really focusing in on graphing the linear functions. That's just functions that form straight lines. And also identifying some key concepts like showing the intercepts. So for this point slope form, I'd like for you to write down that definition. The line with slope in that contains a point, any point, x and y, and can be described as this equation where we're going to take y and we'll subtract that point. Notice that in my formula here, and this is an important thing to note, that this x and this y, we're subtracting. So here they are, okay? And they're plugged in right there and right there. So in each case, in point slope form, it's really kind of going to look like the numbers opposite because it'll always be subtracted.
Wait, what did I say? Like, what's the smaller number? I can't see you.
Pull it up in your Google Meet. That way you can kind of pull it up on your screen. And also your notes are in the classwork too. Which one were you asking about?
It was just where the circle was
Okay,
at.
that's why I erased them. So yeah, that maybe
Is
helps.
this like a new subject?
So I want to take our first example, and I want to look at how to write an equation in point-slope form. Now, we're given the slope, and we're given a point. Okay, that's why that the appropriate thing to use would be the point-slope form of the equation, because we have it. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. First of all, remember, and I'm going to write down just the point slope form of that equation. Remember, it's y minus y sub 1 equals the slope times x minus x sub 1, okay? Now, I'm going to write that down. That's the formula, or the form of the equation. And I'm going to take the slope and the point and put it in that form. Now, I'm going to write the form down first and just leave a hole or a set of parentheses to put in the parts I need. So it's y minus, okay? And remember, here is where I'm going to insert the y that I'm given in my point. And then it'll be the slope times, okay, and this will be x minus, and again here is the x value. Okay, so all I have to do then is plug in the values that I need to. Let me show you what I mean by that. The slope, well, it'll go right there. Okay, and the x coordinate, -2, it'll go right here. And the y coordinate, it'll go right here. That's all there is to it. Now remember, because in the point slope form that I have this negative sign here, in a way it's going to kind of look like we put its opposite there. Okay, because that negative sign is going to reverse the sign. So when we look at it, honestly, the x and y coordinate is reversed if I pull it out of the equation. Let me show you what I mean by that. Okay, so when I put the correct values in, it's y minus, okay? Now remember, my y value there is -1, so y minus a -1. Okay, and that equals, my slope is 0. And x minus, and my x coordinate there is a -2. Okay, now, I don't like double negatives. So I'm going to clean that up just a bit, okay? So this becomes y plus 1, and it equals 0 times x plus 2. Okay, see how I clean that up? Got rid of my double negatives. However, in this particular case, something odd is going to happen. What do I see about my slope? My slope is 0. And 0 times all that is 0, right? So 0 times this parentheses is just 0. I could rewrite that as just 0. And remember, I want my answer as simple as possible. And in the situation where I have a 0 slope, then I'm not going to have an x coordinate. In fact, I'm going to subtract 1 from both sides, and y equals -1. And if you think about it,
What is the little comments?
that makes sense, because if I write down y equals -1, if every y value is -1, that's going to graph to give me a line with no slope. And that no slope is going to be down here at -1. And it's going to look like that. And it will contain this point here, -2, -1. Okay, but remember, because it has 0 slope, I think I said no slope, but I really should have said 0 slope. Since it has 0 slope, the slope does not gain or it's a flat, level line, then the graph will look like that, and the equation will actually be every y value is -1. All right, we'll look at one more quick example today. So check this out. Let's use the point slope form to write an equation with a slope of 1/3 and a point that's -3, 1. Okay, so remember what I'm going to do is I'm going to fit in there the values that I've been given. Okay, when I work this problem, what I do, and don't pack up yet, we're not done. What I do is I write down the equation, and I leave places to put the pieces in. Okay? I would write that down each time when I'm going to use the point slope form. And then I would put those pieces in. So the pieces I need to put in is my slope, which is 1/3, and my x, which is -3, my y, which is 1. Now, I need to simplify. So it's y minus 1 is equal to 1/3 times x plus 3. And my next step, now that's in point slope form, but understand I could go and simplify that a little further. I could go ahead and distribute to 1/3 through. And if I were going to write this in slope-intercept form, I'd have to do that. But for now, because I'm just putting it in point slope form, I'm going to leave it there, just like that. Well, I'll have a few more examples for you tomorrow, and then we'll have an assignment. But basically, it's simple. It's this. To So use the point slope form of the equation. All you need is a point on the line. You need the slope, and you're going to plug the appropriate values in to simplify that equation so you can write the equation in the line.